All right. Hello, fam. I hope you all are doing great. So, as I mentioned in the group, I cancel tomorrow's meeting because I'm in Brazil this week for business, and the the time zone is quite different right now. It's 4 hours, but we got out of track, so I will combine two chapters here so we can get back on track and finish the book before the end of the year. Especially if my new baby coming, I think it'll be beneficial to finish the second book before December. So I'll do a combo here with my insights about chapter 11, ancient influence over the modern world, and chapter 12, Merkaba, the human light body. And chapter 11, Jumbulu mainly talks about some, just some of the hidden codes of the pyramids and the Sphinx. There are dedicated books about it, about some of the hidden codes, and there's so much. There's so many hidden codes. Drummond talk about why the Sphinx and the pyramids are pointing the way they are, and most of histor the history researchers and scientists that I have read about, they mention how there is this slight error of the pyramids. It is a 1/16th error of degree when you look or when you try to align the pyramid with the north direction. But then Drupal says that that tiny error is not actually an error. It was by purpose, so they could all align with the heliacal rising of Sirius. Then that was interesting. He's the first person I have heard saying that. Typically, they will talk about uh, the alignment with the North Pole and why that heliacal rising of Sirius was so important. So even the year that the Egyptians counted the new year, it was based on that event where you could see Sirius before the sun, the dawn, before the sunrise. We have had a lot of background of Syrians in this book, how Jumbo relate the dolphins and the beings living on the oceans coming from Sirius. And then even going beyond that, Matthias de Stefano also mentions that the Egyptians and the Atlanteans, they had a close relationship to the Syrians. And he mentioned that from his point of view, the Syrians were kind of the senior beings in the Galactic Federation. So at that point of time, they were allowed to come to the Earth and teach some of the initiated. So some Atlantean priests, they would receive teachings from the Syrian beings. So here we have like a big clue or a big hidden code with all of those monuments pointing a specific a specific cosmos event. He will also mention, talking about Syrians, he will also talk about how they taught us about the technology of frequency and sound. So that may be another hidden uh, code or a hidden message, and different people have said different things about how they built the pyramid, but I mean they're like 2.3 million blocks, and that hole weight is like 6 point something million of tons. So, each block weighs more than 3 tons or close to that. And if you look in history books, they'll say the Egyptians built those pyramids in 15 to 20 years. So that's like a block every 2 minutes or so. That's that the math doesn't work there. No, it makes no sense that every 2 minutes they would have a block going up with slaves carrying them, on their shoulders, or, pulling the rocks with sitting their trunks underneath, or with clay and water below it. I have read so many crazy things and none of them make sense. And what is considered could be considered nonsense makes more sense, which is that Mattia described as this technology, the vibration technology, that is actually not. It is a metaphysical technology because the priests would sing songs, mantras to achieve a certain vibration to move blocks, and that technology was taught by the Syrians, according to him, to the Atlantean people, not to the Egyptian people. Uh, so they knew how to move big, big pieces of matter with their intention, with the vibration, and with some specific sounds. Now, interesting thing, in one of my first plant medicine ceremonies, first year that I was taken more constantly, I was 20 years old, and was my first regression to a lifetime. I got back in Egypt, or I understood as Egypt, but nowadays I think it could be Atlantis. But I was being initiated in a temple, and after my initiation, I saw me and other priests in a circle. We were chanting and learning how to levitate objects. I never forgot that experience because it was my first uh, past life opening inside of plant medicine ceremony, and it was very strong. Like how we were singing and elevating those blocks. From my views, it didn't last too long. It was mainly the initiation section inside of the temple and my practice with the chants. But then that makes me believe that Matthias is right on how they built that. Um, and then he will talk a little bit about the 12 signs align with that, the pyramids and the Fibonacci spiral, and he will also talk about the Dendera calendar, or Dendera sign wheel. And that's for me that's fascinating because even so long ago they were already aware of those cycles. They already had that is 365 days a year. They had different seasons because that related more to Egypt, but they knew exactly about the signs in which era they were living. If we try to evaluate the hidden codes, um, according to Matthias, the Sphinx was built in the Leo era. A Sikh, that's how they used to call the Sphinx, was the guardian. And now, almost 12,000 years later, it's looking at Aquarius. So as a species, as humans, it is imperative for us to learn what happened 12,000 years ago in the era of Leo so we can get better right now in the era of Aquarius, because that's how it works in astrology. When you typically we have a hidden message on the opposite sign. So if you want to heal Taurus, or if you want to find the hidden gift of Taurus, you need to understand Scorpio, because that's the opposite, is 6 signs after that. So we're now in the era of Aquarius, the era of information. So we need to understand what we did in the era of Leo and the weakness and strength of that sign in order to succeed as a species now. And according to him, according to Matthias, the fall of Atlantis was, and even if we go back to the first Drunvalo book, you also mentioned that the fall of Atlantis was around 12,000 years ago. So that was in the era of Leo. Um, and even going beyond that, so the Egyptians and the Atlantis, they already had the knowledge of the 12 systems. So we're going to go through those cycles, experiencing different energies. So the universe is inviting us to this dance, going through different cycles, so we can experience different energies, and that will help us to realize who we are. Because if there is no change, if there is no dynamism, everything stays still. And the universe likes dynamism. It likes to experience itself. It likes to go through different experiences and different energies so it can learn more about itself. So the way we live this on Earth is with those 12 signs, according to both Jumbo and Matthias. The 12 signs or the 12 system is something universal. So in any other planet, you would leave the 12 systems, but the, but related to different constellations. I don't know. I have never been in, or I don't remember my past lives in other planets, nor I have this conversation with God. But here on Earth, uh, I know that we leave those energies, and the more I pay attention on it, the more I realize how strong the sign energy, the astral energy is, and how that put us in different situations so we can keep learning and growing. And once you learn about those cycles, it is very beneficial to the individual, because then you can understand yourself a little better. You know which cycles you're going through, which energies you're going to be operating under, and through that you can make better decisions for yourself and for the whole. So not, right now we're under the Scorpio energy on the sun sign, but we have different energies. Every single planet is ruled by a different energy right now, different sign, a different constellation, and all of those planets are projecting energy on us, projecting information. And yeah, I have identified so many cycles in my life that some are short cycles and some are very long cycles that they take a while to come back. But then, nowadays, when it's not the first time I'm seeing a cycle, I say, I see you coming, I see you coming. I know you're gonna test myself once again. Hopefully I'm gonna do better this time because I have wisdom from the last time cycle. Yeah, with 30 years, I don't know if there's a new cycle. I think Some of them are pretty long. Saturn is like we're gonna experience that the first time around the 29, 30 years. Yeah, but that's out of topic. Let me come back here. Okay, so those are the main points I'd like to bring up about chapter 11. And then he's gonna talk about the Merkaba and the eighth chakra system and the 13th chakra system. The 13 is more complicated, and he even say it's not necessary to transcend or to connect with heart or even to do the Merkaba technique, but he indicates that as kind of a reference reading. So to that point, not just the 13 uh, chakra system, but also the Merkaba technique itself. It says that the best way to transcend is connecting with the heart, connecting with the universal love. So if you can do that by other means, perfect. You can get there. But his goal in life is to transcend through the Merkaba technique and teach that to others. And he also mentioned that the Merkaba technique is a male-oriented technique in a way that it is very rational. It is very uh, male-oriented in the way that you need to project, you need to have all of those instructions, you need to not force, but use your consciousness actively to move those pieces together. So you do use visualization. Through the visualization, you're gonna operate this this geometry, this generator to have some outcome. So I mentioned it is a very male-oriented way of getting there. Um, and then he mentions also hallucinogens. I prefer to call them entheogens, and how people transcended through uh, entheogens. So he'll mention the San Pedro, Peyote. Most of us here in the call, we have uh, used ayahuasca, and I feel that was one of the most powerful tools I found in my life, to be honest, in my spiritual path. With those techniques, like I have tried so many different techniques over my life, and they are powerful. I mean, you keep using and you see results, but they have a certain speed. And when you use some plant medicines, you just and you boost your psychic capacities, your astral capacities, your metaphysical capacities so much that it is a big jump. I used to say that when I was meditating on my own, I was driving like a Chevy, and then when I was meditating on ayahuasca, I was driving my consciousness Ferrari, and that's a for me it was a good way to describe, and it helped me to understand the astral realm better. It helped me to connect with my heart better. It helped me to realize my cycles and my blockages better. It gave me a much better understanding of dimensions and Akashic records. I mean, it is so much that I would probably be in another state of evolution now nowadays if I didn't use any plant medicines. So it was really, really helpful. But he also mentions that some people don't need it, and some people at some point they will stop using, because then you achieve the point that you can access that information at a consciousness level without that tool. And for me, it's a kind of an important message, because we don't want to depend on medicine. We don't want to depend on anything that's outside ourselves. But of course, we want to use the tools that are available to enhance our self-development, right? So I feel like that's a balance with everything. Um, this is the first year that I feel like using less uh, medicine or medicines to recharge. In all of the other years since I started, I felt like, after some time I would need, my energy would go down after a couple of months, and I would need something to bump it up. And plant medicine has helped me a lot with that, bumping up my energy levels, so I could, connect with my heart again, be centered again. And this year I felt less that need, I felt that less, not saying at all that stopping using it, or I will use for in the next future. I just feel like it is different than it used to be. And yeah, since I mentioned that, I felt like pointing how important it was in my personal growth, and how it enhanced my spiritual knowledge, my spiritual understanding, and also point that I guess the goal is to be able to achieve everything, to access everything on our own, not depending on anything. There is an interview with Ricardo Curri and Matias de Stefano, and then he asked Matias if he has taken ayahuasca. He said he has taken once. That was all he needed. He was looking for a specific answer that he couldn't achieve through meditation, through his own. So he took plant medicine, he took ayahuasca, and all of the answers came to him. But he's Matias, so he needed only once. Need way more than that. Okay, going back to the chakras. Uh, Jovalo mentioned how the projection of the chakras happens outside our bodies in the vertices of the star tetrahedron, and then he's using eight, like the seven we know, and then the next word right on top of us. And I'll leave the image here with 8 and the 13 chakras, but he would have this Godhead, or the next word, next level, as the eighth. So a way of seeing that is to project that outside of us. I like to project and anchor values instead of the chakras themselves. It could be even values that they are already inside, or they relate with the chakras. But for myself, I think it benefits me more anchoring different values. And Matthias has 6 values he likes to use. Some other writers have different values, but the ones I like to use as well is, so for the Earth tetrahedron, the one pointing down. So that's the ego, the point of the vertex. It's I. So the I is looking to transcend through will, love, and wisdom, while the N, the higher self, is projecting himself on matter through energy, matter, and vibration. And then going up and down is the I am, the connection between ego and the higher self. And then during during the Merkaba technique, as we have done in the past weeks, the first center is the solar plexus. You're going to focus the energy in there. That's polarity. that is the chakra that represents polarity. And that polarity is the center of the I am. And we want to balance those two energies. We want to integrate those two energies. So that's why we put the focus on the solar plexus. But once that is balanced and integrated, then we go up to the heart center, because then we reconnect with the rhythm of the universe. We reconnect with the love, the divine love of the Great Spirit, and we can connect with the network of the universe. So we balance our polarity, we balance the ego with the higher self, embracing those two, and we move it up so we can connect with the fabric of reality and the whole universe, feeling that rhythm, connect with the divine love. So I gave the three values plus three values, but Jung uh, he also project the chakras. So it is another way, another perspective of doing that. You can project all of the eight chakras outside of you in the vertex of the Merkaba. Um, and then interestingly, he's gonna talk about the this half semitone. So after your three first chakras, there's a gate to keep going up. So most of people operated just from the three lower chakras. So essentially, they need to eat, sleep, and have sex, or go through the material life. Then with the solar plexus come more fine needs, but still under this material realm. Like, I don't know, having a nicer car, having a beautiful house, you can spend your whole life fulfilling needs and wants from your solar plexus or your solar plexus chakra. But as you go up, you start experiencing different perspectives. Once you connect with divine love, you start thinking about helping others, understanding yourself and healing yourself. So that's like the first path or the first step of the spiritual journey is typically healing. Go to heal something, or we just heal something and realize that we are on a spiritual path. But because that is the connection with the heart, so that is important. And that path, from that gate, from the third chakra, from the fourth chakra, you can achieve that through the Merkaba meditation. Plant medicine helps so much, and so many therapies that helps overcoming that gate and achieving the next level. Um, and then once you're there in those other dimensions, I mean, you expanded your consciousness, so there's no way back. Once you know those things, you cannot unsee what you saw. And I feel like from that point on, it is harder to deny those things, and your higher self will push you harder, so you can keep your spiritual work. It's like, I don't know, if you're an adolescent and you have no idea of that, you don't receive that push. You're just living, having fun, enjoying. Once you know that, it's like yourself pushing you. Hey, what you gonna do about it? Why don't you do better about it? Why repeating those patterns? You already know how to do it, or at least that's how I feel it. If I commit a mistake nowadays, or if I fall under a pattern, because it's like, okay, you experience the first three chakras. Okay, now that is like your lower level of consciousness, and now you're living the the upper ones. And it's not like you should deny the first three. It's quite the opposite. We do need to enjoy, to live, and to love that. Excuse me. But from a higher perspective, we want to use that as tools to help us to achieve our mission in life, to keep the higher self path in life. So instead of just eat, let's eat something that will help us maintaining our vibration higher. Let's eat consciously instead of just sleep. It is like the basic need. Let's also meditate so we can have some of the benefits of sleeping in a conscious way. And while having sex, let's bring awareness to that area of life so we use that sexual energy in a healthy way. And then he'll talk about uh, the ink tantric technique. I don't know if I can call it that way, but that is very interesting. How to use that massive amount of energy that creates life to rejuvenate, to energize yourself. And I have that's a topic that I want to get deeper on it. And even I received like some intuitions and dreams about it. I remember a while back I dreamed that I was with Kachi making love, but we were monkeys. And there was like kind of a higher being. He seemed like an alien, maybe a Syrian. He was by our side watching, and I felt like I was seeing us as monkeys because we weren't using all of the potential that we have uh, from that energy, from that area of life. And I have heard the term, or the way some describe is, when you get to the orgasm, you're gonna eject air and fire, retaining water and earth. So you still have orgasm, but you're not gonna ejaculate. I won't get much deeper in this because it's not a topic that I at a domain. It's out of my expertise, but definitely something I want to get deeper on it and start applying to my life. Centric, me and Ketch have gone back and forth talking about it, but never really studying and trying some techniques there. Okay. Well, it's the first one. Try that, Ketchy. Uh, and I want to close this talk with the auras. So he will talk or give some hints about how how we can see the aura, some techniques to get better at seeing the aura. So he will ask you to put like a black paper on a table with your hand, modulate the light, and then you can do the same thing with a partner. Have the partner with white clothes, and then you keep changing the paper with different colors with very low light, so you can see the same light of the paper behind the person, just in that halo. I want to share another one that I learned with the Rosicrucian School, which is meditating with the candle. So you can just light a candle, barely open your eyes, and meditate on the candle, and without changing the direction of your view, just kind of with the peripheric view, you try to see all of the seven colors around the 7 colors of the ribbon around the candle, the light candle. Um, it's funny because yeah, I went through that technique recently, and I stopped my studies on the Rosicrucian just to keep on that technique. But I wasn't able to do it for the past weeks. I'm gonna do that this week, and maybe practice some of those others that he mentioned here, so I can compare that with the light candle technique. But then, yeah, the other thing that I want to mention is the book uh, Hands of Light from Barbara. I forgot his last name. Her last name. Ammon. So Barbara Ann Brannan. This is the best book, in my opinion, or at least that was the best book I read and helped me the most to talk about light bodies, aura, and even chakras. It is very easy to follow. She's a healer and a therapist for years, and then she'll go through all of the bodies from her perspective. And then Drumbul talks about the etheric body, which is the first one, kind of the energetic body around us after the physical body, but have multiple bodies superposed. So he also mentions that the emotional body will be reflected, or the emotions will be reflected in a energy body around us, and we can see that if we practice enough. And we also have the mental body reflecting on our thoughts. Finally, we have our astral body. And when we do astral projection, that's what we're doing. We're getting that piece of that part of us and projecting outside of us. And then our body is always connected through uh, a silver wire. So if you project and you look back, you see you always have uh, a silver wire. And if you see other people project and you focus on that, you can see that silver wire, because that's the wire that connects both bodies, the physical body to the astral one. And going higher than that, we have the etheric template, the etheric body, and the celestial body. They have other names depending on the authors, and they will be also related to plans of existence. And in my opinion, it's harder to achieve or to see those high bodies. Those are like very high frequency bodies. So when we're talking about Merkaba, for example, I don't know exactly which one, but it's between celestial body and etheric template. So we are very high up. Yeah, I just want to give that other book, that other piece of information. And look at that, I talked a lot. It was an hour already. Well, but over 2 chapters, so I think it's good. For the meditation, if you want to do the meditation, I have in my past videos. So I won't redo it again, but I think I covered all of the topics that I found insightful in those 2 chapters. And if you guys have any other insights, please share with us in the Telegram group. I hope you all have a great week. See you.